Well, hello there and welcome to the Trending Now podcast for a Friday, August the 18th, 2023. Thank you so much for joining us on today's show. And as always, you can catch Trending Now every Monday to Friday, 7 o'clock on CHCH and at chch.com. And you can catch it again at 11:30 on the repeat. As always, it has been a very, very, very busy week, and there is a lot to get to, including more wildfires across the country, particularly in the Northwest Territories and British Columbia. We're going to start with that in just a second, but more on all the happenings. Jason Guidola has been covering this story for us today on Trending Now. He's going to be by to break down the latest, especially in Kelowna, West Kelowna, where evacuations are now going on. 4,800 properties are on evacuation alert. 2,400 properties have been ordered to evacuate. So we'll get the latest on that with Jason Guidola coming up on today's show. We'll take a look at inflation, which rose again in July. That was after it had dropped in June. So we'll dive into those numbers as well. Former U.S. President Donald Trump was indicted yet again. This is the fourth indictment. This one, the first state indictment, though. So we'll touch on that coming up in a little bit. Michael Orr, the star of The Blind Side, the Oscar award-winning movie for Sandra Bullock, he is now suing the family that allegedly adopted him. So we'll get to that as well. And some sad news in the world of hockey. We kicked off the week with some sad news from the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we finished off the week with some sad news from the Buffalo Sabres. And we're going to get to all that coming up on today's show. But as mentioned, let's start with the wildfires, where smoke and flame covered highways was the view for many residents as they fled from Yellowknife. Hundreds of wildfires raging in parts of Canada's Northwest Territories were prompted officials to issue evacuation orders. Now, residents were ordered to leave the city, with the wildfires about 16 kilometers to its northwest boundary. Now, many who traveled by road say they felt terrified. We saw videos that showed what another resident saw through her windshield, nothing but thick smoke, and she said it made it difficult to breathe even with a mask on. Now, the order to evacuate came a day after a state of emergency was declared in the city, because there's more than 230 active fires burning across the Northwest Territories. And this week, Canadian Armed Forces members arrived in Yellowknife to provide support for the communities, and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau convened an urgent meeting with ministers and senior officials as well. And what was trending this week were some outrageous prices for evacuees, including we saw some social media posts complaining about soaring ticket prices for flights out of Yellowknife by multiple carriers, including Air Canada. In a response to us here at Trending Now, Air Canada said that this is not correct, that being the big numbers we're seeing on the flights out of Yellowknife. They say they put a cap on fares for direct flights out of Yellowknife. And in those incidents where people posted screenshots of higher fares on social media, those were based on complex itineraries involving multiple flights and sometimes multiple carriers rather than direct flights. Now, it's not clear how many people are left in Yellowknife today, as the noon deadline, which was noon Friday, to leave the wildfire-threatened capital city has passed. Now, some are still waiting to avoid evacuation flights to Calgary, while a few have stayed behind to feed fire crews and other emergency officials. Now, the city has been described as a ghost town ahead of the deadline set by officials, and the goal is to get everyone out should the fire, which is now about 15 kilometers from the city's outskirts, advance and cut off access. Now, officials said roads would stay open and flights would continue past the deadline as long as it is safe. And meanwhile, hundreds of miles south of Yellowknife, homes were burning in West Kelowna, British Columbia. Residents have been ordered to evacuate 2,400 properties, while another 4,800 properties are on evacuation alert. The town's fire chief said the wildfire grew exponentially worse than expected overnight. And Canada has a record number of wildfires this year, and hundreds are burning out of control. And for more on this, we bring in our reporter today who's been covering the story, that being Jason Guidola. And Jason, what's the latest you can tell us about what's going on in West Kelowna.
Well, officials just said that more than 2,500 properties were given evacuation orders, and based on what I'm seeing on social media, so many people are fleeing town because homes are literally burning down. And we're also hearing that emergency responders are being trapped while trying to rescue some people. So the fires are getting quite extensive and quite severe in all across that Okanagan region. And based off of what they're seeing from a weather pattern wise, they're saying a cold front's coming in that there could be a wind shift. So these fires could be expected to be going on even past going into tomorrow, and who knows, Sunday, and who knows from that point on. So it's getting worse. It's a much severe situation. Yeah. There's still no count of how many people are actually unaccounted for at this time. There's been no word about that, but right now they're just trying to get all the resources together and try to get everyone out as quick as possible. This
story hits home for me. I lived in Kelowna, and so I can see, like, I know exactly where this picture is taken that we see behind us here. This is you've seen some of the videos, right? So a lot of the videos are from the Kelowna side. It's like you said, it's Lake Okanagan. It is a narrow lake. We're used to here in Ontario, these big lakes, but you can see right across. It is pretty incredible, some of these wildfire pictures we've seen, and it follows the trend. Maui, last week we were talking about it. I mean, we've been talking about the smoke in the air. I mean, can you remember a time? I mean, you've been in this business, you've been interested in news. Can you remember a summer like this where it just seems like no matter what, the weather has been dominating more than anything we've seen?
I think it's all about frequency compared to years past, and I think there's always times where I find things very cyclical.
Yep.
But in terms of frequency, this is coming at a much higher frequency. Like being from the Okanagan region, you're not, wildfires are not unusual, but not to this point. We did see some severe ones the last few years where people had to evacuate their homes. A whole town was pretty much done, and West Kelowna is already seeing that right now, and people, and how much further is this going to go? So it's something. An evacuation order, a state of emergency, is becoming a lot easier to start issuing to residents to flee and to find safety.
Which is a scary thought. I mean, at the same time, like, it's become the norm to know that you're ready. And I've worked in Kelowna. I have friends who are still in Kelowna. I have Facebook message, that Facebook says they've been marked safe. I have some friends who are packing up, and they've shown their pictures of what's necessities. It's family pictures. It's passports. It is really scary stuff. And I'm thinking about everybody I used to work with and all my friends who are still in Kelowna at this time. Speaking of weather. You weren't there last night, but and this is a tough transition. But our dear Hamilton Tiger Cats. We're gonna get into this with Laura Seb in just a little bit. But what's up with them, man? We talk about it a lot in the newsroom. I'm going to put you on the spot here on the podcast. What is going on with these Hamilton Tiger Cats?
You know what a Greek tragedy is, right? Because that's what's happening with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and it's progressively getting worse. I mean, they made a lot of. I think there's no worse feeling than watching a team, that we all have a vested interest in, and when they make a lot of some splash moves or some personnel changes, it reloads, it refreshes everyone's mind, saying like, okay, some changes have been made, because everyone's always calling change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just been the absolute opposite of what everyone was hoping for. And I think that build up, hosting the Grey Cup, a brand new quarterback and such, and it's becoming a worser letdown than what it's expected. Granted, they're still in a playoff spot.
I mean, and that's the thing. So they're halfway through the season. They're 3-6 right now. Their schedule is not getting much easier. They have to go to BC, the top team in the West right now, next week. They're never good in BC. I'm worried. I have a soft spot in my heart for our old PA, Braden, who used to work here. Now he works for the Ticats. I know what a difficult job it is to be there every day, through the good times and through the bad times. And I can certainly say that these are likely the bad times for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. It's tough. It makes your job a lot tougher when the team's not winning, even as a reporter.
Now, Louis, you're also talking to someone who's been through some really ugly times. So this one isn't. It's still really
true.
bad.
That's true.
But I've seen really bad in the '90s, right before Danny McManus and Darren Flutie, who we just had here the other day. Before they came, it was an utter disaster. Games were blacked out on television. That's how bad they. Well, I mean. Obviously, they want people going to the games. It's a local home front thing. And then there was the era in I believe it was in the early 2000s, somewhere between 2005. They just, when they went through that uniform change, there were some really bad years too. So it's not unusual to see what's happening right now. But I just think with the expectations, because they dished out so much money and they were going for it this year, it's definitely a time to push the panic button right now in Hamilton.
I ask all my guests this. Do you have big plans for the weekend, Jason Gaidola?
Do I have big plans for the weekend? Yes. So, I'm a London, Ontario resident.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was about to check. I haven't checked yet, but I wanted to see if the London Majors were playing. Because I know the Inter-County Baseball League has been a popular destination for even people here at the station. Hamilton Cardinals, the Brantford Red Sox. And I thought about... Unfortunately, I haven't been able to make it out to those games, but I thought maybe I'd add to the collection and put, and go to see if the London Majors are playing. I shouldn't have spoken before.
That's okay. I'm not going to look at. I'm not going to. But Labatt Park, one of the most beautiful places. That it's like on a little island out there in London.
Yes, right off the river.
Oh, it's a great spot.
Yeah,
I've heard really good things about the London Majors too. I have some friends who live out there in London, and they just go. IBL in general. I mean, I can say this because I've thrown a first pitch. Our friend Natalie Vukovic is throwing the first pitch on Sunday. Adam Atkinson threw a first pitch. What did I say? What did I say? I said Natalie Vukovic?
No, I missed it, but you met Emily. You met Emily.
Yeah, I met Natalie. I got Natalie Sexton and Emily Vukovic. My apologies to both wonderful, very talented ladies. Emily Vukovic is throwing the first pitch, but the IBL is a great time. And I think, as sports fans, you need that affordable option. I can't afford to go to every Leaf game. I can afford to go to one Leaf game a year. These games, they're like $10 and the beers are cheap and it's just a sense of community. And especially now, having come out of what we have the last few years, there is something special about that little sense of this. Okay, this is ours. This is, the Welland Jackfish are getting 3,000 fans a night.
That's impressive.
Hamilton Cardinals getting some great crowds, 1,500, 2,000 a night. And I really think there's this sense of community pride. And as somebody who works, local news, London, you know what community feels like. Do you get the sense that there is maybe a little more of a push to this rally around our people?
I do.
Community?
I think slowly, and because I've been a big critic of Canadians and them being sports fans, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, but I got to say we're Canadian. I don't find Canadians to be the best sports fans, and I'll tell you why. Because the in comparison to say Americans, they support amateur sports through and through, high school football, you name it. We in Canada, we just don't. If it's not the best. Historically, from what I see, a lot of people don't want anything to do with it. Hamilton Tiger Cats are an exception. There are a few exceptions to the rule, but to the rules. But lately, I've been, because of affordability, people are opting out for these options, and trust me, it's good entertainment. CPL soccer.
Yeah,
go to a game. It's like $20.
It's great, and I got a lot of good friends who play in that league, and great football, great soccer, I should say. Let me get my European right there. The London Majors are taking on the Barrie Baycats tonight at 7:35, and then tomorrow they are in London. They are in Welland to take on the Welland Jackfish. So.
Oh, that means I got to come all the way back.
Hey, if you do make it back, I got a couch you can crash on in St. Catharines.
No, I appreciate that. I'm always looking to I've always tried to get. I've been to a London Knights game. I've been there, done that, but I still haven't made it to an IBL game. Whether it's the Cardinals, the Red Sox, or the Majors, it's all about supporting local.
You can do the doubleheader. You can come do the Welland Jackfish London Majors on the Saturday, and then go see Emily Vukovic throw out the first pitch on Sunday.
Possibly.
Okay.
I can't make any promises, but I know Emily is going to throw some smoke there.
See, the pressure's on. I put one in the dirt. Adam got it over the plate. It was a little high, but at least it wasn't in the dirt. Matt Ferrado was at both, and he's the only one who can give a fair assessment. So we'll have to get his what he thought about it later.
I question how many practice pitches Adam got.
I got very few. I was so nervous I didn't want to throw a practice pitch. I was throwing like this little rubber ball against the wall for about half an hour, but an actual baseball, I didn't have one, so I didn't get one until they actually like took it out of the box and put it in my hand. And I'm like, I don't want to throw this.
Now, would you rather throw smoke or would you rather throw kind of like a floater and place it?
I'm glad I went for what I did. I went on the mound and like it was one bounce. It was one bounce in the glove. So it wasn't like it like bounced and then just like rolled or bounced and went away.
Oh, that's not so bad.
It wasn't so bad. Nah. Matt Ferrado
I think
could have done better, though. Thanks for doing this, man. Appreciate it.
No problem. Always a pleasure.
Well, thanks to Jason Gaidola for joining me. And as we continue taking a look at the week that was, also trending this week, Stats Canada has released its latest inflation numbers, but it's not good news. Canada's inflation rate rose to 3.3% in July. Now, it comes after inflation had tumbled to 2.8% in June. Now, according to economists, the new increase could spell bad news for the central bank, saying that the latest report raises the odds of another interest rate hike next month. While there was a glimmer of hope for Canadians when the pace of consumer price growth slowed a little last month, it was short-lived. The federal agency says the rise in inflation for July is mainly due to gasoline prices. A spike in electricity prices in Alberta last month, also one of the key contributors, because between June and July, rates there almost doubled to 11.7%. Another big factor is mortgage increase costs, which posted another record year-over-year increase in July, rising by 30.6%. And grocery prices rose 8.5%, which was slower than June's 9.1%, and that's largely due to a smaller jump in fruit and baked goods. Now, while we've come closer to the Bank of Canada's target inflation rate of 2%, there's still work to do. Now, the latest interest rate hike was in July when the Bank of Canada raised its key lending rate to 5%. And Douglas Porter, who's a BMO chief economist, says that these inflation numbers will cause some anxiety, but he's betting there's only a 25% chance the central bank will raise the key rate again in September.
At about a 1 in 4 chance that they raise interest rates at the next meeting. The main reason why I think they probably will hold off is we actually have seen signs that the economy is starting to slow. You know, for instance, we got a report on Canadian housing today that showed a slowdown in sales, some cooling off in prices. And more broadly, we have seen signs that the consumer is starting to lose a little bit of momentum, and the unemployment rate has risen for 3 consecutive months.
Now, according to him, Canadians appear to be weathering the mortgage rate hikes pretty well so far.
But there are a couple things to point out. And, you know, the Bank of Canada came out with a study a few weeks ago that showed only about a third or a little bit more now of mortgage borrowers have actually seen their payments rise. Now, keep in mind, you know, traditionally the most popular mortgage is a 5-year mortgage rate. And so a lot of people would not have had their mortgages renew yet. You know, that's coming in the next few years.
And then again, there are people who don't have a mortgage at all who can't afford a mortgage because of these interest rate hikes. But, you know, that's their problem. So we're going to figure out who's going to deal with that. Hopefully somebody will deal with that relatively soon. Also trending this week, once again, it is former U.S. President Donald Trump, where in Georgia, Trump and his 18 allies have been indicted over efforts to overturn his 2020 election loss in the state. The 98-page indictment out of Georgia lists 41 felony counts against former U.S. President Donald Trump and 18 co-defendants to overturn that state's 2020 presidential election results, accused of, quote, unlawfully conspiring and endeavoring to conduct and participate in a criminal enterprise. Trump himself charged with 13 counts in the indictment. Meanwhile, in his statement, Trump's attorney calling Georgia's grand jury presentation, quote, one-sided and the event shocking and absurd. Ohio Representative Jim Jordan, who is a Trump ally, tweeting out, "He did nothing wrong." Meanwhile, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy also chiming in online saying justice should be blind, but Biden has weaponized government against his leading political opponent to interfere in the 2024 election. Sounds pretty serious. The indictment stemmed from a 2.5-year criminal investigation into Trump's alleged interference in the 2020 Georgia presidential election, including his call to Georgia's Secretary of State at the time.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
Now, the investigation also accuses multiple defendants of harassment of election workers and a voting system breach in rural Coffee County. And while Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis says she intends to try the 19 defendants together, it's up to the judge on when the trial will proceed. Willis has ordered Trump and his alleged conspirators to turn themselves in and surrender voluntarily by next Friday. Meanwhile, Trump had said that he would hold a major news conference on Monday to present a report from his team regarding his claims about fraud in Georgia's election. But to his surprise of nobody, he changed his mind and said that he's going to let the evidence speak for itself in court. Have you ever been to Trump's Truth Social page? It is a strange place, and not just because of the targeted ads that you get. It's the all caps. It's the articles. I mean, in the last 16 minutes, so here you go. It's 16 minutes, he said, "Thank you to Jonathan T. Gilliam for his great understanding and remarks of the radical left Democrat fascists and their use of coordinated indictments in an attempt to hurt my presidential campaign through election interference." I have to read the all caps in a loud voice. "So far, it has been a big backfire for them. These Marxist monsters must not be allowed to destroy our elections or country any more than they already have. Make America great again." So that was 17 minutes ago. And in that 17 minutes since then, he's got 1 retruth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, he can't read all these articles. He's just like retruthing them blindly. And the latest one 2 minutes ago, which, I mean, tells the whole story about this Trump stuff. And for more on this, very pleased to be joined by Laura Sabin, our Trending Now producer, as well as our entertainment expert here. And it's not entertaining. It's pretty scary, the Donald Trump stuff. You've been covering this all week.
Yes.
I've talked about this on the podcast because it's been so out in the open. Because all of his crap, like we just heard the call, like, I just want to find 11,781 votes.
Yeah.
Like, we've heard the calls. We see the threats. We see the fact that he still goes on and says, "I haven't lost. It was stolen from me."
Yeah.
There's something weird about this alleged crime, and that's what it is. It's an alleged crime.
Yes.
Playing out for all of us to see.
Yeah, I'm honestly kind of surprised it took them this long to do anything about it, because I remember when he first was claiming that the election was stolen back in 2020, everybody was like, what is going on? Like, this man is delusional. And it's crazy. And then just more and more started coming out after the insurrection on January 6th about, like, all these little pieces that he was a part of in different states and, you know, defaming voting counting companies and all this jazz. So I'm pretty surprised it took them like so long to really target him for that, because this Georgia one is the first one that's targeting him for working to overturn the election. The federal one against him is more so about inciting the January 6th insurrection. And then the story we did yesterday was that one of his allies, Roger Stone, was caught on video, like, telling his aide to write out an email being like, it's your duty as electors to, like, go to states where the vote isn't for Trump and fix it.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. Just the fact that it's all been happening in front of us. There is no, like, smoking gun, because it's been happening every day, like, it seems, since he took office. Okay, a general election matchup right now. This is Real Clear Politics. This is a website that tracks all the polls in one place. Help me make sense of this.
Okay, I'll
In
try.
a general election matchup, Biden gets 44.4% of the vote. Trump gets 44.0% of the vote. What is this guy's power? You're like, because you are a fan of Beyonce, right? Like, let's try to put it in a, like, if you're a fan of this guy.
Yes. Okay,
Like,
fair.
So you're a fan of Beyonce. We know that, right? We've talked about that on this show.
Yes.
You like her.
Yes.
What is it about this guy that you think 44% of Americans, knowing all that they know about him, are still willing to put him back in office in 2024?
Because they're just as delusional as he is. They hear what he says and they're like, yes, I agree. And I think there's this this weird thing around politicians in the United States that you don't really see anywhere else. And we're kind of starting to see it here in Canada, but more of like in like an anti way, like people hating Trudeau. But there's this weird celebrity of being a politician in the United States that people aren't really viewing them as government figureheads whose job is supposed to help us. They're viewing them as a celebrity, and that's where it gets a little bit convoluted, is that you shouldn't be viewing your political leaders as celebrities. Like they are working for us.
That's Trump's
and
whole
that's
brand.
what they.
It's his whole brand. He's built his life out of that.
Yeah.
Being, you could be like me.
Yeah.
You could be rich like me if you weren't such a loser.
Yeah.
Do what I do, which was inherit $300 million, turn it into $150 million, lose more money than anyone has before, continually deny that you lost an election that you lost, refuse to concede. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm
genuinely terrified of a 2024 Trump re-election, or not re-election, but
Well, one of the people that I interviewed this week, the clip didn't make it into the show because it was just a little bit too long, but she was saying in terms of the federal, like the U.S. Justice Department or charges against him, if he becomes president, he can simply say to the U.S. Justice Department, stop.
yeah.
And there's like really nothing to prevent them from doing that. Or she was saying this is a scenario they've never seen before because it's never happened where a sitting president is under like criminal investigation. If he does get charged, could he pardon himself? We don't know. We don't know.
That you would never think would have to come up, but
there's a possibility.
The Georgia ones that we started this conversation with, that one he can't be pardoned. He can't self-pardon.
The state.
But it's the state, and it's not just the governor. There's an actual appeals board and a pardon board that he'd have to go through.
Yeah. So she was explaining to me that if anything bad is going to happen to Trump, like that's the one. That's why it's such a big deal, this Georgia one.
We were talking about this with Jason. The Ticats, our local team here in Hamilton, did not win last night.
They did not.
You know that because you stayed in person to see the game.
Yeah.
That was an adventure, to say the least.
It really was. I came prepared for rain because they were calling for rain.
Yes.
I brought my waterproof rain jacket and I was like, if it rains, I'm ready. One of our camera guys / editors, Matt Weeks, he got us this really cool I guess a suite almost kind of that was slightly covered. So I was like, raincoat, slight coverage, we're golden. And then the winds picked up and it was like being stuck in a monsoon, if I could explain it in any way. I could not believe the way that the wind was just swirling in a circle. At one point I said to our assignment editor, Carly Conway, who was also there, I was like, is a tornado going to touch down? Because we just had one touch down in Mount Hope on the weekend. Yeah. I was like, it was nuts. And then we tried to go into the concourse because although we were covered from above, we were not covered in front of us. And that's
where it was coming.
That's where it was coming, like horizontal at us. But when we went into the concourse, it was like 10 times worse because it was like a wind tunnel in there. So there really was no safe space once that rain started.
I will admit, I came to see you guys.
Yes,
I had seen you earlier, went back to the press box, came back. I made the decision because I had lived through a game like that before on a weeknight where there's a weather delay. I said, you know what? I don't think this game is starting again until 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
I think by the time I walked to my car, which was a solid 10-minute walk, there's nowhere close to park there. By the time I walked to my car, drive home in the rain, and get home. I will not miss a single second of the game. And sure enough, I did not miss a single second
you
of the game.
didn't.
I did get wet, though, because it did rain on me on the way back to the car.
Yeah,
did
we
get
kind
a
of,
little
when
bit
it
wet.
started whipping up, we were like, oh, I hope Louis got soaked.
Oh, wow.
Sorry.
See, like, I
But
could
the thing
stayed in
was,
the press box and not got rained on.
you
at all.
could have. But the thing was, is I don't even think once it started raining, we weren't staying to like see if the game was going to restart. It was just because where were we going to go? We had to walk to our cars. So either way, we're
You're
getting
gonna get wet.
drenched.
You're going to get, yeah.
We might as well like be slightly sheltered and not get struck by lightning and then make the decision after that.
While we're on the football theme, I was going to get to the story in just a second, but I'll get to it now. The Michael Orr stuff.
Crazy.
This is one of those stories that on Monday, it kind of came up in the afternoon, and you guys got a reel in because it was like one of those trending now
Yeah.
stories that, my niece is already working on her pack, you're doing your
Yeah.
thing. But the Monday, the news broke, and then by Tuesday, we had full coverage here on Trending Now. This is a strange story. Did you watch the movie? I haven't seen the movie
Yeah, of
in
course I
years.
watched
I haven't seen the movie in years. But if you haven't heard, and I'll get a little bit of the background here, the former NFL tackle known for the movie The Blind Side is looking to have his So Emily Vukovic was conservatorship. So Emily Vukovic also struggled with this word on this week. So I'm glad that I'm
it's
not
not a
the only
common
one here.
word.
Conservatorship.
Conservatorship. Yep.
Conservatorship.
Feel it.
I didn't even know he was under a conservatorship.
No, I don't think
it was the
I don't think he
assumption
even knew until
that he was adopted. So now he filed a petition Monday accusing Sean and Leanne. Okay, yeah, so it's like Leanne Toohey of lying to him by having him sign papers. Well, that's what they're from. They're Southern,
Yeah, I know.
so they got accents probably.
Probably.
They probably have accents.
So bad, I'm never doing
His parents making them sign his conservate. See, because that's where it throws you off.
Conservatorship.
Conservatorship.
Conservatorship. Right?
Conservators.
Conservatorship.
Okay, but so making them his conservators,
Yeah, conservators. Yeah.
not conservators.
No, I don't. At least I don't think so.
All right, rather than his adoptive parents. So that's kind of the story here. Weird story. He's suing the family, saying that they should be required to pay compensation and punitive damages.
Well, yeah, like if they were making money off of his story without him knowing, because that's kind of what it seems like based on what he said in an interview after the news that he filed a lawsuit against them came out. It seemed like up until this year, he had no idea that they weren't actually his adoptive parents, that they were making money off of his story and his likeness because of The Blind Side. And I'm pretty sure they wrote a book about what they did for him as well.
Doesn't even look like Sandra Bullock.
Well, you're never going to get an exact match. But
Look how happy they are.
He has been very vocal since the movie came out that he didn't even like it because he's like, it made me seem stupid and like they helped me get into school and they helped me do this. But he's like, I was already all-American. I was at a private school based on my own grades and merits. I was just homeless.
Yeah.
So anyways, I hope things work out for them because...
Well, they sold their company for like $300 million or something like that, didn't they? Like they're like, I don't have money. Sean Toohey said he told the Tennessee newspaper that his family is devastated by the allegation, saying, quote, "It's upsetting to think we would make money off any of our children, but we're going to love Michael at 37 just like we loved him at 16. What else is he going to say?
Oh, obviously.
Big plans for the weekend.
Yes, I'm going to see the Jonas Brothers tomorrow.
Big plans for the weekend. I'll ask you.
Shut up! I'm going to see the Jonas Brothers on Saturday, and then Carly and I are going to see RuPaul Drag Race Queens at Scotiabank Arena on the Sunday.
Wow. So you got like a big Toronto weekend planned. A big Toronto weekend. We'll have fun.
Thank you.
Are you go training it?
No, I'm gonna drive because I'm gonna stay at my cousin's house on the Saturday night. So I'd like to have my card to put my stuff in when I leave her house.
All-time best Jonas Brothers song. Go. Don't think about it. Go.
Good night and goodbye.
Oh, no. Love Bug is the correct.
Okay, well that's a good one too.
Love Bug is a great one. Laura Seven.
I'm in row 5, so I can FaceTime you when they play. it if
Okay,
you want.
cool. Tomorrow night, Saturday, because they're all playing all, not that I know, but they're playing all, 5 albums.
Mm-hmm.
The 5 albums, one show.
Yep.
That's the tour. Is it at the Rogers Center?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's a big one.
It is.
All right, well, have fun. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Laura Seven, thanks for doing this. And my thanks to Laura Seven for joining me today. And before we go, very pleased to be joined by the host of Trending Now. It's Kelly Patello. And Kelly, happy Friday. We made it.
TGIF, Louis.
Okay, let me just say, as somebody who is just getting used to the Monday to Friday life, I talked about this with Josie. I popped out, went for a little walk, and Josie our works the front desk at reception.
Yep.
I am so tired. At 4:30 on a Friday, like
It's the grind.
It is literally the grind, and because Monday to Thursday, I'm here 8:30 to 4:30, so my body is fully telling me get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Right now we're recording this. It's 5 o'clock. My body is telling me Louis, you need to be home.
You're at max capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
And I still have to do our show later tonight.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
I don't know
join
how
the club, Louis. I still have to do our show tonight. Yeah, no kidding. Me too.
I still have to do that 2-minute segment I do once a week on our show coming up here. What have you learned? This show, we've talked about this before, but it is so much information. How do you process? I know you and Sebin are work so closely in building this show day in and day out. But when you're building a show, what's your mindset? How do you approach a topic that you think, okay, this one is going to work? And what makes that difference of, okay, this is a topic that I think is right there that we need?
Yeah. Well, we look at the trends first thing every morning. Yeah. Twitter trends, Google trends, and whatever people are talking about on the internet the most is normally what we include in our show. Some things that trend, are just silly, like nonsense. Yeah. Something random that Elon Musk tweeted that has no importance or significance. Sometimes he tweets really interesting things.
You bring this up. So today, he brought up that he wants to get rid of blocking.
Yes, and we're going to have that on the show today.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've been on social media. You've been on social media. It is a very toxic place. There's a couple of things I would, if I can't control who can send me messages and who can comment on what I write, that makes it so less alluring for me wanting to be on social media.
I think that if he tweeted today that he's going to get rid of the blocking feature except for direct messages, and I think if that actually comes to fruition, that
might be it.
That might be it for me in Twitter, because honestly, the hate and the trolls and just the annoying people who try to ruin your day on Twitter. Yeah. And I'm not even active literally, it's caused me not to tweet very much anymore because of it. So I can't imagine not being able to block somebody who's harassing you on Twitter. And I think that's so short-sighted.
I was watching this clip, and it was a bunch of comedians, a bunch of stand-up comedians, like Ray Romano, guys who have done the circuits of having to go up there and practice your craft. And then there was Bo Burnham, who was somebody who grew up on social media. He grew up on YouTube, and there was sort of a criticism from these old school comedians that, hey, you never had to get heckled. You didn't have to go out there. And his response was, just go to my YouTube page and read some of the comments, because what people will say to you behind a keyboard in their own room that they can close their laptop or delete their account or just never have to worry about it again. They can throw something out there and then just never have to deal with the consequences versus if you're being heckled in person. Because I have people who come up and say, you're not my favorite sports guy on CH. And it's thank you.
So savage.
Thank you for taking the
people
time.
Say that.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to come up and tell me that. But that would be a very no-fly list on them.
And I mean, like you said, it's just too much toxic energy on social media. Twitter particularly, though. Instagram and Facebook is one thing.
They seem like they try a bit more.
It's really sad. Sometimes I genuinely can't comprehend how somebody goes out of their way to say something hurtful or despicable, disgusting to somebody they've never met, that they don't know. It's just mind-blowing to me. Just direct your energy somewhere else.
What happened? What happened to the point that you feel comfortable in doing this? And that's the scary thing that gets me.
Yeah.
What are we doing to combat this? And what are officials doing to say this isn't acceptable?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of world are we living in that this is, they said something mean about you. Move on. Forget it.
Yeah, well, and you know what? You can criticize journalists on Twitter. Absolutely. Criticize my work. Say something constructive, productive. Say you don't like how I wrote something or whatever. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the people who are just like straight up trying to harass you
Yeah.
online. And we're not even talking about just the people who are mean.
Yeah.
You know?
There's the disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I've said this, like, being a woman on TV, I couldn't even imagine the amount of garbage
Yeah.
that you get.
Well, it's why I barely tweet anymore.
There you go. All right. If you were wondering why Kelly was not on Twitter this week, you got big plans for the weekend?
Just a lot of family stuff.
A lot of family stuff.
Yeah, looking
Nice.
forward to it. Birthdays.
I did a lot of family stuff last weekend.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I saw my grandma twice.
You're a good grandson.
Made her day to
that.
see me the first time, and then the second time. I think she might have been sick of me by day 2. But I saw both my parents, so I did a lot of family time. I should do that again. It's nice, like,
Yeah.
refreshing. Should be a great weekend,
Gotta
too.
check
It's a little
in with
chilly
fam.
today.
It is chilly,
It
but
is chilly today. Had
And
me thinking
rainy.
like pumpkin spice latte a little bit.
Ooh.
I know it was that, like, I'm wearing jeans for the first time all summer.
oh, I love fall. I love early October and pumpkin spice and pumpkin patch.
Now you got me excited. People are going to be like, there's still 13 days left of August. Kelly, thanks so much for doing that.
Thank you.
All right, Kelly Patel, everybody. And then before we go, I just wanted to close with just a little bit of some sad news from the world of hockey. First, the Toronto Maple Leafs prospect Rodion Amirov died on Monday after he was diagnosed with a brain tumor last year. He was just 21. He had signed a 3-year entry-level deal with Toronto after being selected 15th overall in 2020. He had missed all of last season after being diagnosed with a brain tumor. He underwent treatment and recovery, but unfortunately has passed away. Maple Leafs president Brendan Shanahan saying in a statement, over the duration of his courageous battle, Rodion's positivity inspired everyone around him, and he made lasting impressions with our team and fans in his brief visits to Toronto. So sad news there from the Toronto Maple Leafs. And this one hits a little bit closer to home for me. And the sad news out of Buffalo last night, as Rick Jenneret, the play-by-play voice of the Buffalo Sabres, the longtime Buffalo Sabres play-by-play voice, passed away at the age of 81. He started working for the team back in 1971. He was the longest tenured play-by-play announcer at the time of his retirement in 2022. A native of St. Catharines, my thoughts are going out to Chris Jenneret, his son, who was my teacher at Niagara College, his wife, Tammy Jenneret, who I worked with at 105.7 Easy Rock in St. Catharines, both fantastic people, and my thoughts are with them. And as we go, I'm going to leave you with the final words that Rick Jenneret said on air in his final broadcast after his retirement in 2022. Again, this is Rick Jenneret, and our thoughts are with him, his wife Sandra, his sons Mark and Chris, daughter Shelley, and all his beloved grandchildren. From all of us here at Trending Now, thank you for joining us today. Thanks to Jason Gaidola. Thank you to Laura Sebin. Thank you to Kelly Botello. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And again, here are the words of Rick Jenneret as we go here on the Trending Now podcast.
I don't want to sound this like a eulogy, but it's more of a celebration, really. Time passes for everyone. Eyesight fails, as does reaction timing. With me, it works like the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. It's the first time I've ever quoted the Bible. Thanks for traveling around with me on this road for the last half century. All of you, thank you very kindly. It's been a hell of a ride.